The next step is to figure out how to pull this information together and create a report. I showed you earlier that there's this little icon, and we can print the note correlate chart, which is very commonly used to kind of get a bird's eye view of our profile vocally or our client's profile. And this is often the go-to report that is used to just kind of give yourself a little bit more information about what's going on, what's a little bit more extreme. And there are two categories. There's the emotional category and the physical category. Things that occur once, not so much of a deal. Zero, definitely not something to point out. But things that are 4 or more, like G and G sharp, these are things that might have something significant, something to kind of focus in on. So the note correlate chart is a very useful tool for that. I can export this as a PDF or in the Excel spreadsheet format. CSV is another spreadsheet format. And there's some other types of formats. If you're familiar with them, you can use those as well. So once I select this format that I want this in, I can export this and save it to my disk, or I can send it to a new window. So let's say I want to export it to my computer so that I can look at it and store it in my client's folder. And so I would just go through the process of saving it, and then I have that information in my downloads folder or wherever you have your computer set up, and then I can have that in my client's folder or in my folder as I'm going through this adventure of learning more about the portal and its capabilities. So that's kind of the bird's eye view. That's the same that we saw on the GNS tab. That's the same as this information with a little bit more text as far as what G sharp represents, what G represents, etc. But this is where this information is getting drawn from for that report. Now the next button is the evaluation report. So by clicking on that, it takes all of this information and it sorts it by name, which is a very valuable way of looking at it, because once it's sorted by name, we can see things that are occurring more than once. So here it is, Latissimus dorsi occurred as a low and a high. So that's already sorted in a way that helps us recognize things that are occurring more than once. And being a lowest low and a low is significant. Now, I can export this as an Excel file by using these or this one. So let's export it as an Excel file. XLSX refers to a more recent version of Microsoft Excel. So we'll export this and save it to disk. So we'll save this one, and I'm going to open this and show you how to pull this together if you don't want to give your client the entire list of information that might have things that aren't as relevant as other things. First of all, we'll enable editing. As you can see, it gives us a nice little header that gives us information as far as who we're dealing with. And here is the same information. Now, I can take my familiarity with editing Excel and cull information that doesn't seem as relevant to what their complaints are or their symptoms are, and pull this down to a simpler report that we can provide our client. Let's say we want to add some information to our Memo tab, things that are more specific to what our complaints are. So the person that I'm dealing with has a lot to do with back pain, for example, and I really don't know what this is. So if we click on this, it opens another tab showing us what this is. And so what we can do is we can copy this information. Maybe we want to grab something like this. So I press Control-C on my PC computer, and I want to add this to the memo, but I can't edit this. So we go to this button here, and it says edit, and now we're in the edit mode, and we'll click on Memo again. And this shows us all the things that we can do to this information. And so let's say we have something to say about this. Let's call this point of interest. And I'm going to make this kind of a header. Let's call it heading 2. It's nice and big. And then Control V will put what I have in the clipboard inside here. And so I've now transferred that information to this Memo tab. And then I can add something like this. This anomaly occurred 3 times. And it gives me some information about it. So I can assemble things that are relevant to my particular evaluation. Save and close. This is the evaluation we're working on. We'll open this again. And go back to the Memo tab to see what it looks like. There it is, point of interest. This anomaly occurred 3 times, and look at here, even the hyperlinks that we copied over are working in our Memo tab. So we can add a few notes about what's going on when we're doing our evaluations. We can export reports using the evaluation report. And a common format for that is to open up the evaluation report functionality and then export it as a PDF. And it's by default set up as a PDF. And so we'll just simply click here and save. So this evaluation has this vast amount of information. I can take that PDF and I can store it in my folder locally so that I have records of what I've been assembling for my client. And let me pull my little PDF reader thing here into the screen so you can see it. Yeah, it's kind of big. I have a big screen. So here we are, all that information. And these are still hyperlinks. So I can still continue to use this to learn more about what's going on and what the terminology means.